Welcome to the 9642 podcast. This is your host, Mr. Number 9.
And this is The Fool.
This is where me and the Fool give our
Unqualified and unrequested.
ramblings on the various issues in the world of sport.
Or something like that.
Hello everyone, welcome to the end of the year where everything's going down. All the winter sports, or Northern Hemisphere winter sports, are in the crunch time of their seasons, and we're going to look at the one particular sport, the NFL.
Yeah.
So we are about to hit week 16, and I think so. There's 3 more weeks left, and we're gonna have a look at the playoff picture.
Yeah.
Looking at our current table, the AFC have a few guys who have already qualified. The Bills have clinched the AFC East, so they're in the playoffs. They're fighting for seeding. They're currently the 2nd seed, 2 games behind the Kansas City Chiefs, who have only lost the 1 game, which was to the Bills. They've also already, obviously, clinched a playoff spot.
Yep.
So those 2 teams are going to host probably Kansas City or or the Bills. One of them will get the bye as the first seed. Next up, we've got the Steelers in the AFC North. So they have qualified for the playoffs. They haven't clinched the division yet, but they've at least qualified that they'll get a wild card spot.
Yeah.
And the AFC South, the Texans have already clinched the division. The rest of the division is abysmal. I don't think anyone from this division can qualify. So we can just ignore it. The Texans will come in. They'll host a playoff game. Yeah, that's the team everybody wants to go and beat. So if you're the Ravens or the Bengals, that's what you're looking at to try and qualify. So in the playoff picture of the AFC, after the Bills, the Dolphins, Jets. The Jets are out. The Patriots are obviously out.
Yeah.
And I believe the Dolphins are more or less out. They can't. At the best they can get is a 9-8 record, which would put them equal to, assuming the Ravens and the Broncos lost all their games, which is unlikely to happen.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Colts. So I think I do think they are out, but watch this space, because I am going to look at another team with 6 points and say quite the opposite. Now, Kansas City Chiefs are through, and the AFC West are a competitive division. Both the Broncos and the Chargers are competing for a wild card spot. The Broncos are ahead. A game ahead, and with the Chiefs already clinching, they might, once they've clinched the 1 seed, which they might do as early as next week, because I think if they get 14 wins, 14 means the Bills can still catch up with them, and head-to-head the Bills would go ahead. So 2 more wins, and the Chiefs are pretty much guaranteed to. They're guaranteed to be the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Obviously, if the Bills lose, then the Chiefs are guaranteed to be the 1 seed, and the Chiefs win this week.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, that AFC West fight between the Chargers and the Broncos happens tomorrow. This is the Chargers, I think, last chance saloon. If they don't beat the Broncos here, they're unlikely to push on ahead to the playoffs. The Chiefs are playing the Texans, so the Texans know they're not going to be. They're probably not even going to be good enough to be a 3 seed, because they've had a pretty bad season. They've got 9 wins. The Steelers have 10 already, so and then there's the Ravens who beat them. So head to head, there's a lot of things for the Texans. They're probably not gonna make it to the. As I said, they're probably going to be the 4th seed, because they're going to clinch. They've already clinched their division, so I think the Chiefs are going to win this one. They've got everything to play for. Texans don't really have anything to play for right now. They can rest players pretty much until the playoffs start. They won't because there's so many games, but they can take it easy-ish.
Yeah, exactly.
Then we go to the AFC North, which is the other interesting division, where we currently have the Steelers and Ravens, who also play on Monday. So that will be a great game. Ravens a game behind. Steelers have beaten them once already this season. If the Ravens win, then it'll be tight. They will both be 10 wins. I think Ravens have a slightly better conference or division record, so they might be ahead, but I'm not sure. The Ravens playing this, they basically were commanding against the Giants last week, but I do think that this is going to be a tough game for them. I do think the Ravens are going to win, but the rest of the season doesn't get much easier. But I think basically the Ravens and the Steelers, they're going to qualify for the playoffs. We're pretty sure. I don't know who's going to be the ones who's going to win that division. If the Ravens win the wild card, they will probably go to the Texans because they're currently the top. They would be the highest seeded wild card.
Right.
They'd be the 15th.
Yeah.
Now, I said I don't think 6-point teams can win, but most 6-point teams don't have a Joe Burrow who is balling.
Yes.
And absolutely balling. Now, the Cincinnati Bengals, they played excellent last week to absolutely smash the Titans. And they now play their Ohio rivals, the Cleveland Browns. If they can get through this one as well, which is I believe it's also a home game, so that's going to be good for them. And next week they play the Broncos, which is likely going to be up, going to potentially decide a playoff spot. So playing the Broncos means they kind of have a fate in their own hands thing if they can beat the Browns. And then they play the Steelers at the end of the season. At that point, the Steelers have probably already qualified for the playoffs. They've already qualified. They might have already been they might not play all their starters at that point.
Yeah,
just because they've already qualified for the playoffs. They don't need to worry about placing.
Yeah.
Unless them and the Ravens are still going for winning the division.
Which is quite possible as well. Each of those have hard games going through.
Yeah, because the Ravens are, I think after the Steelers, their schedule gets a lot easier because they play the Texans, who they should beat, given how good their form is, and then they play the Browns, who once again they should beat.
Yeah.
Because though the Browns have beaten them earlier this season, it's a great defensive performance. So you never know, obviously. But the Ravens should, if they can beat after the Steelers, there's multiple wins available to them. The Steelers, on the other hand, after playing the Ravens, play the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And then they play the Bengals. Oof.
Yeah. Exactly. They're playing the Chiefs in a week where the Chiefs could potentially be winning to secure a number one spot a week. The number one seed a week early. And then playing the Bengals, who may be playing for a playoff spot. So that's really making it tough on them.
And they've already qualified for the playoffs, so the pressure is not as bad on them.
Yeah. It'd only be for keeping the number one spot in the AFC North, right? Which would give them a home playoff game, right?
Home game, or they would probably go to play the Texans.
Yeah, and also playing the Texans.
I don't think either or. I think the Steelers are fine with that, because I don't think they're good with the Texans.
That's a good point. It's home or fifth seed and play the Texans. So yeah.
Yeah, and then after that, they would be being the fifth being the fifth seed, they'd play either the Bills. Divisional games, you're already going to play good opponents. You'll either play the Bills or the Ravens, probably. So it's like, okay, we're going to play a good team.
Yeah, exactly. Just that first week, that's the one where maybe picking and choosing makes some sense.
Yeah. Whereas the Broncos, who are the other team, which I think could win are going to get the wild card. They've got the Chargers, who I do think they're going to dispatch tomorrow afternoon. Then they play the week after they play the Bengals, which is going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
And then I think they play the Pats. Who's their last?
Chiefs. They play Chiefs.
They play the Chiefs in their last game. Yeah. Now, the Chiefs will probably not play their starters. And it's going to be the game's going to be at the Mile High Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So
good chance for them.
So good chance for them, and I think the Broncos have a pretty decent chance of making it through. I don't see too many options for a team like I said. I don't think the Colts or the Dolphins are going to catch up to them. I think
Chargers,
potentially
maybe.
The only one that will is the Chargers. Might the Chargers, if they can beat the Chargers, I think that's it for the Chargers.
Chargers do end in two reasonably easy games. Reasonably. Patriots and Raiders.
They play the Patriots. Okay.
And then the Raiders in the last week.
Yeah.
There's two teams who aren't necessarily having the best of seasons.
Yeah, so the divisional games, the Raiders will want to try and ruin the Chargers season.
Yeah.
That's going to be a given. And that's going to be a fun game. Especially if the Broncos are playing against... it could be a straight shootout between those two for a playoff spot. Now, because I do think the Bengals will get through on 9 wins, so I have to predict that the Chargers are going to lose.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't mathematically make sense.
Yeah.
The Chargers, I think, given they have a new coach coming in with a new system, it's pretty good for their first year. And if they do make the playoffs, it'll be on top, because once you're in the playoffs, you never know what can happen.
Exactly.
He might play John Harbaugh, the coach of the Chargers, might end up playing against his brother, Jim Harbaugh, who is the coach of the Baltimore Ravens. They have played in a Super Bowl together against each other.
All right,
and Jim's won that time. So I think John won that time. So Jim Harbaugh will want to try and do something with the Chargers, or at least try and get one up on his brother if he faces him in the playoffs. I'm sure nobody wants to lose to their brother.
No, exactly.
Yeah. Now, looking on to the next game on the schedule, we move to the NFC. We have the Falcons play the Giants. The Giants are an abysmal team, and the Falcons are in a relatively competitive NFC South. They're a game behind the Buccaneers, who are trying to get the 4 seed, win the South, just like the Texans have. But this division's slightly more competitive. The NFC North basically has already locked in the Lions and the Vikings, and very soon probably the Packers will also get locked in.
Yeah.
So that's going to be 3 teams from the NFC North. I think the NFC West, it's all open. I still think the Cardinals might make it. Mm-hmm. They're my sleeper pick to get through.
Yeah.
I think with the Eagles have already clinched the NFC East, and they probably potentially could get the 1 seed. There's the Washington Commanders are a very, very good shout for the third wild card, because 2 are coming from the NFC, definitely. So the third wild card is, I don't think the NFC West is going to be strong enough to have a wild card.
No, I think it doesn't look like
the Commanders have been having a good season. Just looking at the games next week, we've got, like I said, the Falcons play the Giants, which should be a get-right game. They should hopefully win that. The Lions play the Bears. Now, that's always a competitive game, but the Lions have a lot of injuries. But given they've already clinched a playoff spot, I don't know whether they will go all in now and risk getting more. But their coach is super aggressive, so I don't know. They'll probably beat the Bears because the Bears are bad.
Yeah.
Panthers are playing the Cardinals. Now, the Panthers, even though Bryce Young has improved this season as a QB, are a bad team, and I think the Cardinals, like I said, I'm picking the Cardinals to qualify, so I think Kyler Murray is going to lead them to a win there. The Jets play the Rams. The Jets cannot qualify for the playoffs anymore, and the Rams are fighting for the NFC West seed, so I think that's going to be a win for them. Now, Commanders versus Eagles, that's going to be a marquee game on Monday at 7 o'clock. NFC East Derby. I think if that is the game, the Commanders need to beat the Eagles there. And if they can, that's going to basically give them the playoff credentials. Like, we're a playoff side.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to face us.
And winning it gives them an outside chance of taking the division, right? Like, if they lose that, then Eagles take the number one of the division.
Yeah.
But
exactly. And the Eagles are really good. It would be an upset if the Commanders did win.
I mean, the Eagles just have to win one game the next 3 to clinch that number 1 spot in the division.
Yeah.
Very unlikely, but got to start somewhere.
Yeah, but they want to be the 1 seed rather than just winning the NFC East.
Which, takes a bit of doing. That's in the end.
Yeah, because there's 3 teams with 12 points. Like Minnesota, Detroit, or Philadelphia could end up with the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Minnesota with Sam Darnold, no less. A QB that got kicked out of his last 2 teams. Now, obviously, we talked about the Ohio derby with the Bengals and the Browns. It's a key game for the Bengals there. They're going to have to beat the Browns, obviously, to keep their playoff hopes alive. The Colts play the Titans. I think that's a nothing burger game, even if the Colts are going to try to win to keep their playoff hopes alive, but I think the Titans might beat them in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you love to make your division rivals lose.
Yeah.
Then the Seahawks host the Vikings. The Seahawks still definitely trying to win that NFC West division. And the Vikings already through to the playoffs. So the Vikings are in a pretty good position to get the 1 seed. I think Philadelphia and Detroit both have a lot of injuries. And getting the 1 seed could be really, really good for them. So I think they're going to win against the Seahawks. Next, we have the Bills and the Patriots. The Bills have already qualified. The Patriots are bad. I think the Bills are going to smash the Patriots.
Yeah.
Bills might drop 50 burger on them.
Josh Allen's going at the moment, yeah.
Yep, pretty much. Then we have the Raiders playing the Jaguars. I think another nothing burger game. Neither team are going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
The Dolphins playing the 49ers. 49ers are also trying to make it to that NFC West. But I think they're mostly out. The Dolphins are mostly out. This is two kind of... But whoever wins that game will kind of keep their faint hopes alive for next week.
Yeah.
Then we've got the Cowboys versus the Buccaneers. I think the Cowboys are really bad. I think the Bucs are really good. So the Bucs are going to win that game. And then the Tuesday game for us, or the Monday night game, which is gonna be on Christmas Eve. Then Packers Saints. Obviously, Saints are not good, and Packers are good. So I think the Packers are gonna win.
Yeah.
And that should basically clinch them having a playoff spot, like at least have guaranteed a wild card spot for them.
You would think,
looking on from there, like I said, the NFC already, like for wild cards, I think only realistically the Commanders and the Packers are in for a hunt, right? Because I don't think if the Falcons might get the NFC South division, but I don't think they'll catch up to the points total of the Commanders.
Maybe
like
Seahawks.
The wins total.
Maybe Seahawks still, but that's
maybe. Yeah. So looking at that, I
mean, the big one for the Seahawks is this week, right, against the Vikings, which is a tough game.
Right.
But if they can do that, it's keeping the Viking, it's pushing them towards the magic numbers. The Vikings have already qualified. I know they're going for number 1 seed and top rest. Seahawks have got. That's it's a big game. It's at home. They need to take it. Then they've got the Bears.
Yeah.
The Bears
should be a win for them.
Yeah.
And the Bears are a team they can definitely beat. So, and then the
Rams.
But also the Commanders are playing the Falcons, which is a game they should win as well because Falcons are pretty bad. The Seahawks then play the Rams, which is a divisional thing that might be for the division.
That's a good point, but that's the other thing. The Rams and Seahawks are the same, right?
Yeah.
Might be that.
And then
that the Seahawks are taking the number 1 spot as opposed to wildcard.
Yeah, and then the Commanders play the Cowboys, which should be once again a win for them because the Cowboys are bad playing with the backup QB.
Yeah.
Cowboys and Falcons. So the Commanders, we can say tentatively should get at least 2 more wins.
Yeah.
And maybe 3 wins if they can beat the Eagles, which is not impossible. So I think the Commanders should end up with 11 wins in total, which means realistically, like you said, only the Seahawks can catch up with that.
Well, Seahawks/Rams, whoever's the second of that.
Yeah, the Seahawks/Rams. Looking at the Rams schedule, because the Rams look like a team on form, and their coach is always awesome. So they play the Jets, a game they should win, I think, because once again they're on form, and then they play the Cardinals. Now I have picked the Cardinals to win this division because I like them, and I think the Cardinals always beat the Rams when it comes to times like this. The Cardinals are like the Rams bogey team. And then the Rams then play
Seahawks.
The Seahawks in their last game. So the Rams have back-to-back division games, and they've got one give me with the Jets. So I think they'll end up with 9. I think the Cardis will beat the Panthers this week. I think they're going to beat the Rams next week, which is going to put them kind of equal with the Seahawks and the Rams. But then they're going to play the 49ers in the last week, and the Rams and Seahawks are going to play each other. So in a weird way, you might end up with 2 teams on 9 points. Cardinals would have 10 points, and the Seahawks and Rams would end up with 9 points each, which might still be enough to get through if the Commanders somehow lose all their games, which I don't think is going to happen. I think they'll at least win 1, right?
You'd think so, the Commanders.
Yeah, and I think Green Bay winning 1 basically mathematically guarantees them. And the Green Bay should win 1 because they're playing the Saints. And
I mean, Yeah, well, Green Bay need to win 2 to guarantee them. I mean, based on any on. I think that at the moment the 12 wins is the.
They've got 10. I think 11 wins will mathematically guarantee it. I don't think anyone.
11. No, because theoretically. Oh no, I suppose Rams and Seahawks have to play each other, so makes 11.
Yeah.
Commanders could make it.
Because they will at least be the third wild card, right?
Yeah, that's what I was
Because there's 3
I was trying to count whether could be 4 that could be above them, but I think you're right. 1 win is enough. I thought 12 is sort of that, but I think given who's playing each other, maybe 11 is enough.
If the Packers beat the Vikings in the game next week, then they're a shout for the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Depending on how injured and how badly potentially Detroit plays, because if they beat the Saints, which I think they will, so that's at least a win. And then they're playing the Vikings, so that's like a roll the dice, whatever, because the Packers have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And they can ruin the Vikings. They can ruin the Vikings' opportunity to get the 1 seed.
Well, that's potentially a 1 seed game, right? Packers win it. That gives them the chance, right?
And then they play the Bears in the last week, which once again they would want to try and win. The Bears are not good. Obviously, the Bears will try and stop them, but that could be a game that gives them the 1 seed because the Vikings would play the Lions.
Yeah. I think I think you could give Packers at least 2 of those wins in the game against the Vikings, which could potentially they win, they go over top of them, and then the Lions versus the Vikings. So you could 2 wins. That's 12. Yeah, I think they're still theoretically too far behind. One of those, they have to win all 3, right? They win all 3 games, the Packers. Have to beat the Vikings to have a chance. That gets them to 13. And one of the lines of the Vikings is going to end on at least 13 playing each other.
Yeah.
So then it just comes down to head-to-heads.
Unless there's a tie.
That's because there's somehow a tie, and I don't know how ties work before.
Well, then they look at a record of if two teams have the same number of wins, the team with the tie is ahead of the team with the loss, right?
Yeah.
So it's basically the tie works as a tiebreaker if you've got the same number of wins.
I know.
Yeah. But I mean, it's very unlikely, but not impossible. And shenanigans like that can happen in the last week. So I think, but the NFC looks like a more settled playoff picture just because we know probably apart from the NFC West, which is like really, really competitive. If the Commanders, if they do beat the Eagles, I think that's almost mathematically ensuring they're in the playoffs because there's only 2 more games, right, at that point, and they've got 10 wins.
Yeah, it depended a little bit on the others just because of everything, but I think basically one more.
Because as you said, the Rams and Seahawks, they play each other, so one of them,
Yeah.
they can't both get the full array of points.
Yeah. I think.
And probably
10 points 10 wins is probably sitting on the edge depending on tiebreakers. 11 points should get it once again. Potentially tiebreakers run it for you, but I think most teams, although out of the Commanders, Commanders is 1 win. Rams, Packers, maybe not even a win to get playoff depending on everybody else's games.
Yeah.
1 win for them. So Commanders probably 2 wins to get the tick. But 1 win would probably still get them in because lots of other people, as you're saying, are playing each other. Going to limit, especially if Packers don't beat Vikings for weeks.
If the Packers beat the Saints, they're probably through.
Yeah.
and they're mathematically through because I don't think they'll at least get the third wild card spot, and then if somehow the Commanders manage to beat the Eagles, then they'll very likely, more or less, I think, will have had a wild card spot, especially if the Seahawks and Rams lose their games somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, the Rams could lose to the Jets, the Seahawks could lose their game to who are they playing this week? Again, they are playing the Vikings, so yeah, definitely could lose that game.
Yeah, definitely could lose.
But then if the Seahawks lose to the Vikings, then I think the Commanders win. That's mathematically done, right? Because there's nobody catching their wild card spot, catching them in the wild card race.
That would be 10. Packers would be 10.
Yeah, I mean, the Packers will be ahead of them, but they should at least be the third wild card. There's nobody they shouldn't be able to be...
I think 10 just runs into the problem of head-to-head, so to say. 2 wins to guarantee it. 1 win depends on the other results. Like, if there's losses where we expect losses, then yeah. But if lots of people manage to pull things out, like the Falcons technically could get to 10. I don't know what the head-to-head Commanders is. Cardinals can get to 10. Seahawks can beat 10. Rams can beat 10.
Yeah.
Well, Seahawks and Rams, at least one of them can get to at least 10. Packers are already on 10. So, I mean, there could theoretically be a whole lot of teams that get to 10 or just above. Or get to 10. So 11 would give you the tick. 10 is going to come down to... Is probably, like...
I guess
to be fair,
the
10
Packers...
I say 10 is probably going to give you the tick, but not next week, the week after. Like, you need some loss.
Yes. Because I think if the Packers and the Vikings win their games, then does that make it more mathematically sure? Because the Packers will have clinched it either way. Because if the Packers win and the Seahawks lose, then they're definitely... The Seahawks or Rams lose, then they're gonna definitely qualify with a win with an 11.
Yeah. Because that would be... Yeah, well, yeah, the Packers with 1 win. I think the Packers... It's only Rams. One of Rams will see make it. Commanders can beat them. That's it. But no, with a win, Packers 11 points next week would be enough to get a tick. Packers win, they're through.
Yeah.
Leaves one wild card left. So yeah, theoretically with a win there, I think.
Yeah,
like I said,
it's probably the Commanders or someone from the NFC West. So, and I suppose because the Commanders are a young team with a rookie QB, if they could potentially go the opposite route and lose their games, because there's Cowboys to play in their last game, but it's a division game, and then obviously they're playing against Philadelphia, who are a good team, who they should, in theory, Philadelphia should be beating them, but then you've got the game against the Falcons, and the Falcons are in theory trying to get that NFC South, though it looks like the Bucs are very strongly positioned and will not give up their position.
Yeah. So say the Falcons got Okay.
Very good.
And the Falcons had somewhat easy run, other than the Commanders.
Yeah.
Like Giants and Panthers.
Giants and Panthers. Panthers is a divisional game for them. And then the Buccaneers are playing the Cowboys, and they play the they play the Panthers as well. Like, to be fair, both these teams should beat the Panthers, so that's gonna kind of be irrelevant. And then the looking at then they play the Saints in the last week, and I guess the Falcons are playing the Panthers in the last week. So basically, if at some point in the next 3 weeks, as soon as the Bucks win, if the Bucks win one and the Falcons lose one, then the Bucks are through.
Yeah, pretty much. The Falcons basically just have to win all 3 of their games to have a chance. I think if the Falcons lose one, that's like Buccaneers. They could overtake the Buccaneers. Yes.
Yeah.
I sort of look at the Buccaneers one and go, well, it doesn't seem likely that they're going to lose 2 of those. Like I would beat the Buccaneers. Really. Yeah. There are 2 divisional games which make things a little bit more spicy.
Yeah, but the NFC South is a bad division. Both the Panthers and the Saints are gonna get top 5 picks, so yeah. They're not gonna do too well. So that looks like our playoff picture. We'll obviously know a bit more once the games tomorrow happen. But yeah, look, this is the fun part of the season. I can't wait. No work for the next, after tomorrow, 2 weeks, and we just watch lots of football, another sport.
Yes, exactly.
Boxing Day test, all the stuff.
Oh, all the good stuff. The Black Caps ODI is coming up. That's more January down in the mounts.
Yeah,
got
that's
some
right. Yeah,
White Fern ODIs. It is against Australia. I haven't looked, but I feel like today's one got.
Yeah, potentially. But yeah, it's an exciting bit of summer for us coming up, and in the spirit of the season, I hope everyone is has a great one. Very safe and enjoyable holiday, and we look forward. Thank you so much for listening, and we look forward to catching you next time.
Catch you next time.
Well, that is the end. Thanks for listening all the way through.
If you liked what you heard, we have even more. Find 642 Discord and a Buy Me a Coffee.
Pretty sure it's Buy Me a Beer.
Oh yeah, buy me a beer on buymeacoffee.com.
In both these places, you can talk to us, and we may even listen, especially if you do buy a said beer or coffee. I might still be confused.
Yes, we're easily bribed. All links are in the show notes below.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
This is on YouTube.